What's up, people? And I know that I built a majority of the following for my channel by talking about, 40k, Warhammer 40k, for those that don't know. And I have tried to not make any sort of Warhammer content because I'd rather just cover stuff that, that happens in the community, right? I'm not a lore channel. I've made one video that basically talks about lore, and maybe I should do more of those. I don't know. I never actually wanted to be one of those people like Luton or Major Kill or West Hammer or any of those people, right? I'm just a guy that likes Warhammer, and I could sit here and read Wikipedia articles all day long and make a video off of it, but that's not what I want to do. So So if you see me make a 40k video, it's because something interesting happened, right? And unfortunately, Games Workshop isn't really doing anything to wow me at this point like they were in the past. Even Black Library has been doing a whole bunch of re-releases of stuff that they've already released. People are actively avoiding writers like Mike Brooks. I mean, Lilith Hesperak sat on the store for weeks, right? And the new writing is just not good. It's just not. But that's completely unrelated to what this video was about, because this video is about the left hammer side of things freaking out as usual about something that, has already been done. The Ukrainian soldiers in this Ukraine-Russia conflict have been using 40k imagery for the longest time. But as soon as the Russians do it, now all of a sudden it's a scary thing. Oh, I don't want the Russians touching my Warhammer. And we're gonna look at this. So here's an article from Wargamer, and yes, I know it's Wargamer. I prefer not to touch anything that Wargamer does with a 10-foot pole, but this is too funny to pass up. So the article reads, "The Russian army's religious Warhammer 40k cosplay chills me to the bone." Oh, so it's not the Ukrainian drone operators using corn symbology, while they bomb people. It's the purity seals that the Russians are using. Warhammer 40,000 is dystopian fiction, so when Russia says it's issuing real priest-blessed 40k purity seals to its soldiers, it scares me. Nobody tell him about the religious significance in Russian culture. Just don't tell him. Let him figure it out on his own. And Alex Evans, this guy is a gold mine of, for lack of a better term, a gold mine of soy articles, because I don't know what else to call it. The dude is a raging leftist. I mean, obviously. So anytime he gets up in his feels about something, it's pretty funny. So let's look at this here. When it comes to Russia in 2024, not a lot can shock us anymore. The country has reportedly lost at least 70,000 soldiers. I guarantee this dude has NAFO shit in his profile on whatever side he's on. And it seems ready to lose many more. The reality is horrifying enough. Yet when I read this week that a Russian military supplier was issuing soldiers with purity seals, protective religious talismans from Warhammer 40k, specially blessed by military priests and printed with Christian psalms, my gut twisted. My favorite silly sci-fi war game is being cynically spliced into a very real, very appalling war. But again, he's only mad because the Russians are doing it. He's not mad because the Ukrainians were doing it. I mean, if you're going to be outraged over something, don't be one-sided about it, right? I'm not exaggerating the direct relationship between these items and the fictional prayer scrolls worn by soldiers in Games Workshop's Warhammer 40k factions. As we reported on Wednesday, the manufacturer Ratnik Tactical explicitly calls these things seals of purity and has proudly shared images it says show the seals being blessed by an Orthodox priest. Based. They're strips of yellow parchment style paper printed with the Bible's Psalm 90, attached to a round waxy red seal and printed with the Christian Chiro symbol, and apparently consecrated in the main temple of the armed forces of Russia, the Cathedral of the Resurrection of Christ. Again, based. They look nearly identical to the hundreds of tiny gray plastic ones I've glued to my Space Marines, and the promotional toy one I got in a special edition of the Warhammer 40k game Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. They simply are replica 40k purity seals, deliberately made to appeal to Russian Orthodox Church believers who also like Warhammer 40k lore. So what? Who cares? And Ratnik claims that thousands of seals have already gone to the front. We can't verify that, but it's fair to assume that at least some have. Which you can see in a picture of a guy wearing one, but I mean, that's the first one I've ever seen. That's the first time I've ever even seen a picture of it. On one level, this may seem innocuous enough. Soldiers personalize their gear with unofficial tokens of their interests all the time. Soldiers like war games, lots of Russians love 40k. People love 40k everywhere. It follows that Russian soldiers may want to buy and wear 40k badges in combat. So do Warhammer nerds from other countries' militaries. So, okay, right there, he admitted it. He's just mad that the Russians are doing it. Squatties decorating their body armor with orc faces, the Aquila of the Imperium of Man, or the insignia of their favorite Space Marine chapter is neither a new phenomenon nor evidence of some mass delusion. Soldiers like to express themselves and remind themselves of their favorite things while they are doing a job fraught with terror, danger, and trauma far away from their homes and loved ones. Besides, it's far from the most offensive symbology worn by Russian troops in the field. Neo-Nazi imagery is commonplace and much more immediately troubling. Again, not talking about Azov Battalion, only the Russians. And that is what pisses me off about these people. They're so fucking hypocritical. Both sides are doing it. Both sides. The Ukrainians are doing it too. The Russians are doing it. You can't just get mad at one side for doing something that the other side is already doing. But I see where it's coming from, at least from this writer. It's coming from a morally superior position of Ukraine good, Russia bad. That's what it is. Me, I prefer both of them stop shooting at each other, but that's just me. Viewed from a more secular country, even the business with the religious blessing could be considered a mere marketing gimmick, and maybe it is. I don't know how any of these things actually sell, or the real beliefs of the people who buy or wear them. The church and its dogmas occupy a hugely influential position in modern Russian society and politics, especially when it comes to legitimizing Putin's aggressive foreign policy. But I can't and won't speculate on what's going on in real people's actual heads. Maybe they just like 40k. And it's not just modern society that religion has played a part in Russia's, culture. But, that's besides the point. But you don't need to jump to conclusions about the psychological and spiritual motivations of individual soldiers to find this development surreal and disturbing. Again, they've already been doing it on the Ukrainian side. Give me a break. Think about the chain of events that led to this. A company that normally manufactures and sells plate carrier vests, webbing, and helmets made a deliberate business decision to create replicas of a religious war talisman from a fictional fascist from a fictional fascist theocratic empire invented by British sci-fi nerds in the mid-80s to sell toys. So, there's the crux of it. Then a real military church official agreed to bless them in the name of his god and be photographed doing so. These things aren't just cheap, cheerful merch, they're military kit, publicly sanctioned by church and state. It's absolutely wild that this happened. Who cares? Warhammer 40,000's creators intended their science fiction to convey how terrifying it would be if humanity came under the sway of all-consuming national... Oh my god. It just keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse from this man. Intended their science fiction to convey how terrifying it would be if humanity came under the sway of all-consuming nationalist dogma, an authoritarian militarist government, and a dominant state religion all at the same time. The Imperium and all its faux medieval artifacts were first conceived of as a darkly satirical warning, though my colleague Tim Linward has argued at length that the modern franchise scarcely counts as satire any longer. Well, then your colleague is correct, you fucking idiot. It's deeply unsettling to see one of those artifacts turn from a silly nerdy doodad into a prop intended to tie people's fandom for Warhammer into their religious faith and national pride. I've written before about how playing Space Marines can be a stimulating but slightly dark experience of well, what? Slightly dark experience of fantasy escapism? The whole point of 40k is grimdark. Grimdark. You absolute amoeba. That's my new favorite thing, by the way, calling people amoebas, because it's funny. Single-celled organisms that, can only repeat the things that they hear. And amoebas can't even talk, so they already got a one-up on these types of journalists. The existence of these purity seals feels like an intentional step towards weaponizing that same experience in the service of perpetuating more real-world death and destruction. Call me overcautious, but I think that's a pretty dark and scary thing. Again, he's only pissed because the Russians are doing it. The Ukrainians have been doing it. And you know what? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. Let's look at some stuff here. Bear with me. And I'm sorry, it was Azov Brigade, not Battalion, but either way, close enough. Let's see. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Ukrainian Warhammer 40K military. Let's look here. Let's see what we got. This guy has a fucking inquisitorial seal on him. There's the purity seals that nobody has ever seen until today. What else we got? So we put a purity seal on a tank. That's Russian. Let's see here. Ukraine's drone czar is a Warhammer guy. Oh, okay. Let's see. We got blah 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 blah. Again, everybody's now finding out about this purity seal shit. But somebody actually brought up, and I have to go look at the original post here. Bear with me. Go look here. Let's go look here. Here we go. I believe that was a vehicle, a Ukrainian vehicle, with a Z painted on it to look like a Russian vehicle. Again, the Aquila is right there on the front. I think this was the drone operator group with a fucking corn symbol on their flag. Yeah, this is nothing new. This is nothing new. This guy just wants to be outraged because the Russians are doing it. And it's a bullshit article because it's so one-sided. Again, if you're going to be mad about something, be mad about it as a whole. Be mad that other factions are dragging 40K into a war, which the Ukrainians did it first, right? And it's not like this is something new. The Ukrainians did it first in this conflict, but 40K shit has been around forever in military groups. People like 40K. And, you know, leave it to the lefty game journos to turn something into something bigger than it is, right? I get it, you don't like the Russians. Russians are, I guess, objectively bad in this conflict. Well, they are. They invaded first. I mean, not my place to get into international conflict, right? Again, I would prefer that neither side shoot at each other, and that's just me. But it's nothing new. It's nothing new. And, you know, these people like to, you know, morally grandstand about how they're obviously the good guys and the bad guys are doing something with something that they like. And then you get articles like that. So, just wanted to point this out because this was actually pretty hilarious to me that this guy is sitting there writing an entire dissertation on why the Russians shouldn't have, you know, 40K imagery while his side of choice has been doing it. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, I gotta wait until I see another funny 40K article, then I'll make another 40K video. And until that happens, I'm not touching 40K at all until they, you know, get their heads out of their asses. So,